ESPN 1080 The Team presents the ESPN 1080.com Insider Show, delivering you the latest news and notes from around the sports world. We got all your local teams covered, including the Knights,
That's it, ball game over, and the UCF Knights have upset 16th-ranked Florida.
the Magic,
Howard soaring high above the rim.
the Rays,
A walk-off, home run.
the Bucks,
On the rollout, Raymond throws, touchdown.
and the Knolls.
Touchdown number 2.
The Insiders are your ticket into the press box. And now, here's your Insider.
And good morning, Orlando. Welcome to the Insider Show here, wherever you are tuning in on ESPN 1080, ESPN1080.com, or ESPNFlorida.com. Eric Lopez, your Knights Insider, alongside Magic Insider, perhaps for the final week, Andrew Melnick.
Yeah, we maybe got some bad news with the NBA yesterday. We'll go into that a little more later.
We're definitely going to hit that up a little bit later on. And then Carson Engel, Knights Insider, who was also held out of the West Virginia Tech exhibition game last night in basketball.
I was, and I'm not.
Or you got eligibility issues?
I'm not disappointed about it, but I'm not going to go off on a rant on Twitter, but it was okay. I just stayed at home. It was all good. I went grocery shopping.
I'm not
instead.
sure how much skill Carson has, but he is tall.
Just for clarification, though, we did clear with the NCAA. He is eligible to be on the show, so that was a rough negotiation.
That's why I'm here.
We were able to negotiate that. Can't say for the others. Duckman, our producer, back there with an Eli Manning jersey. Congratulations on beating the Dolphins last week. I appreciate it. So you're back.
I'm back, yeah. You let me back on the show. We beat your Dolphins, and you guys are gonna, maybe get the first overall pick. It's up to the Colts now.
Destiny is there. We got a cast of thousands. The People's running back, Victor Anderson, fresh off a big upset win over West Virginia's running back, Louisville there. But then his softball Rollins team got shut out by UCF. So it's a mixed week for him. And
You really had to go there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Listen, that's the only right now. That's the only thing we're bragging in
That's
UCF.
why I'm in all black. I'm in mourning.
Yeah, morning over an exhibition softball game. Coming up on the show, we were going to be joined by Charlie Bernstein in studio, but now instead, Andrew, we're calling an audible. He's going to be calling us from the phone.
Yeah, I guess he's going to be calling in. It was
He was too intimidated, wasn't he?
I don't know. I think maybe he's taking the bye with Jacksonville.
I doubt that strongly.
We'll be hitting up on the NFL. We're halfway point in the NFL season. We'll hit that up later on the show. Issues for UCF on the field in football. Issues for UCF off the court in basketball. Boy, it sounds like a fun week, huh, Carson? We'll hit that up later on. And Andrew mentioned NBA negotiating, talking till 3 in the morning, giving an ultimatum. Either Howard the Dunk goes down or it doesn't. Well, maybe not. But
It never goes down.
Andrew Melnick will
Could go blank for a while, though.
Could go blank. But, gentlemen, let's start off, obviously, with the big story. Last night, college football, a dramatic night. 1 versus 2, LSU and Alabama, a defensive showdown. It lived up to the hype from that standpoint. Goes to overtime. LSU wins 9-6. No touchdowns in the game. Field goals galore. Alabama misses 4 field goals. Gentlemen, your thoughts to end the game.
People this morning are saying what a boring game that was. Anyone that thinks that's a boring game wasn't watching. That was an awesome game. If you like anything about defense, just the unbelievable speed and ferocity at which both of those defenses played was absolutely incredible. Something like, you really just don't get to see that often, especially in the era that we're in football and the way the rules are situated, especially in the NFL, but also trickling down into college a bit. But those defenses were just incredible. I look at the LSU secondary. The LSU secondary especially just gave tons of fits to A.J. McCarron. He could not find anyone to throw the ball to. And then really what it came down to, I think, was, Alabama's defense played a little better early, but LSU's defense played better late, and the special teams mistakes in the beginning cost Nick Saban the game.
What it came down to me was all special teams, because I left that game thinking Alabama was the better team. They could run the ball a little more effectively, especially early on. They wound up with less rushing yards at the end, but with Trent Richardson there. And LSU couldn't move the ball downfield at all, throwing. A.J. McCarron had a ton of trouble, like you said, obviously. Yeah. But he got the ball downfield a little more than Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee did. Jarrett Lee was just flat out awful.
I know that Jarrett Lee was terrible, but I think that was kind of a mistake to just go straight with Jefferson, something that LSU hadn't done. It ultimately won them the game, but, well, I don't know if that won them the game, but I don't know. When I saw that happen, I was like, well, watch out, Les Miles. Unfortunately, Alabama never really capitalized, and so that never really became an issue.
What got me is when you're a big 6'5", 250-pound or so tight end like Mike Williams, who's a good tight end.
Yeah.
How do you not at least come down with part of that ball? How do you let it get ripped out by the safety? Because if he comes down with the ball, they both have it in their hands at the same time. The ball goes to the offense. I mean, you're just sitting first and goal at the 2, and a touchdown in that game would have been an insurmountable deficit.
So now, of course, don't forget the trick play where Mays.
Well, that was the play.
That was the play of the game
Lined
in
up
my
in the
view.
Wildcat,
Right? Could have been the difference there.
And it was after they had a nice
Yep.
drive going. Trent Richardson just broke off, I think, a 20-something yard run, and then another nice little run. They're down around the 30-yard line.
So the question now after this game, are you for or against a rematch, and under what scenario, if you are?
For me, I think they probably are the two best teams, but they played. Alabama had their shot. They couldn't capitalize. They couldn't make field goals. They had the game at home also. Give me someone else. I want to see someone else in the game. Maybe it's Oklahoma State. Personally, selfishly, I'd kind of like to see Stanford, just see Andrew Luck go up against a defense in a secondary like LSU.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Andrew. I think I'm a little more, maybe I would accept a rematch. Beforehand, I was very against it, but that was just such a great game that if at the end of the day, if it falls out where I think that a bunch of teams lose and aren't really deserving, if a bunch of teams drop out, then, I might be okay with it, but generally I think it would be good for the game, I guess, if it was a different opponent from a different conference. It says, it's a pretty damning thing when it says that really the best teams are in the SEC, which I guess is, the truth.
Let's give you a couple scenarios here then. Let's say Stanford loses
if it's gonna
against
happen.
Oregon. Let's say Oklahoma State loses to Oklahoma. Who goes in to play LSU?
If that's the case, I think Oklahoma's going to get in. I
Oh,
don't think they want a rematch. I didn't say that's what I want to happen. I said that's what I think is going to happen. I think Oklahoma will get in the game, which I think they're a team that maybe could play with these teams. Of course, got horrible news yesterday. Ryan Burroughs tore his ACL.
But it's the same system every year.
You know me, I want Boise to get a shot, but they never will.
Right.
So.
But
one loss Oklahoma's getting in ahead of undefeated Boise.
Who lost to a terrible Texas Tech team.
And the other one-loss option, they're not going to want rematches.
Oregon,
so you're not even if Oregon beats Stanford, they're not going to get in. It's going to be
Let me give you this scenario.
All
right, let me give you this scenario. LSU loses to Arkansas, which could happen. Arkansas has played very well against LSU.
And then you've got the
three-way
highest-ranked
tie,
BCS
which
team
could be
to
Alabama gets to the SEC title game, wins the SEC title. Oklahoma State loses. Stanford loses. Who goes?
Okay, there's your scenario where you could see a rematch. I'd still think maybe Alabama and Oklahoma would be the game, which would be quite unfortunate since LSU would have beaten two teams probably ranked in the top 5 at that time.
This is the system we have. It's a joke. This crap about how this is the regular season. Reese Davis was ridiculous last night. Oh, it's the most significant regular season in all sports.
But we don't know. I mean, what are the chances of it happening like you just laid it?
No. It's college football. Of course it can happen. It's happened every year. It happened in 07. It happened in 08. It happens just about every year. So now I'm not saying it necessarily is going to happen, but that's the problem with the system. Oklahoma should be out. They don't deserve to be in the national title game. They are a fraud, like Skip Bayless. They talk a lot and don't back it up. They're a joke.
Just a random shot at Skip Bayless.
He's an idiot. He's a moron. So
Take a shot at Skip anytime you want.
Yeah, he should be fired.
Wow, calling for someone's job? Now that's a little...
He's stealing money. So the point is, it's a joke of a system. I agree with Carson. Why shouldn't Boise State get a chance? Here's the thing about Oklahoma State, why they're overrated. You want to know who they beat in the non-conference? I'm going to tell you who they beat. Louisiana Lafayette, Arizona,
Tulsa.
And Tulsa.
Conference USA
now, that
powerhouse.
is a fantastic schedule in softball. Unfortunately, this is not softball.
Gosh, it always
it's
comes
football.
back to softball, as I always say. There it is.
Should they be taking down UNLV late night Saturday?
They did. Boise State did that.
I know.
Boise State, you could argue, non-conference has a better quality win over Georgia.
Every time Boise State gets a chance against someone like that, they beat that team. So
yeah,
if that was not the case, if they got it out in those BCS bowl games and got rolled, then I'd feel a different way. But the fact of the matter is, every time they go up against a team like that, they win. So I think they deserve a shot.
Hopefully they have no more late season shots against Nevada. What happened to Boise?
You hate Boise.
What is that? What are you doing?
I don't like teams that don't play anybody. I'm sorry.
I just said who Oklahoma State played.
And they play in the Big 12. If they beat
an overrated conference.
If they beat Oklahoma, that's going to be a much better win than anyone that Boise's played.
Texas Tech beat Oklahoma. What does that mean?
That I can't explain. Texas Tech's gotten blown out 2 weeks in a row.
That
can't be explained. But Oklahoma, I mean, Boise doesn't have to do it week in and week out. They play these just garbage teams. They're playing UNLV.
Well, that's not going to change. They're going to the Big East.
That's true. It might get worse.
Yeah.
What happened to Boise State? They got screwed this year by TCU. Plain and simple. TCU losing to SMU, losing to Baylor. If this was last year's TCU team, last couple years, they were undefeated. Boise took them down this week. I'd give them more of an argument. I'd give them more credit because they'd have more of an argument. But TCU going down to SMU, who's kind of gone downhill.
Who do you have? Who do you have playing for the national title game, and who do you want to see in the national title game?
Right now, I've got LSU, Stanford. That's what I want to see.
Same thing, LSU, Stanford, and that's I think the game that everyone wants to see.
I don't want to see Big 12 against SEC. We've seen this script in the national title game. We know how it ends.
I just think that Stanford as a team, the way they're constructed on the lines with Andrew Luck, the pro style, I think they have the best chance against the SEC.
They've got a lot more size than Oklahoma State.
I'm just not impressed with Oklahoma State. Give a 45 to Kansas State. I just, but we'll see.
Colin Klein, though, quite impressive yesterday.
Nice little player. UCF may not have to see him after all next year. We're running away from him. Or they're trying to run away from us. Or something. I don't know. We'll get into that later.
They don't want to chase him around, I think.
Probably is the better word there. Other quick notes in college football. And note, hey, the Gators beat Vanderbilt. All right.
They did. Jordan Rodgers, though.
He looked
pretty
great.
Impressive.
Wasn't he fantastic?
Yeah.
I mean, how does LSU not have a kid like him at quarterback?
It'd be a lot better off if they did. Now, maybe if Jordan Jefferson played the whole season.
Brantley not healthy, clearly.
No, and he can't move at all.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. The Gators coming up now, and of course on the Insider Show, we'll hit up on the NFL with Charlie Bernstein coming up at about 15, 16 minutes to go. But when we come back, a black and gold week. Not the week we were anticipating.
I'm scared. I'm excited. I'm scared. I'm fearful. I don't know what to be at this point.
I think you pretty much described every black and gold faithful right now. We'll go in detail more next. You're listening to ESPN 1080 Insider Show on ESPN 1080 The Team.
The Insiders will be right back.
ESPN 1080 The Team.
ESPN 1080 Insider Show here on ESPN 1080 The Team in the Orlando studios. Eric Lopez, your ninth insider, alongside Andrew Melnick, your Magic insider right now, breaking down that Otis Smith layup against the Bulls from 1989, December 20th.
I watched that, dude. I like that.
Was it a travel?
No, of course not.
Of course not. It only took like 500
They were playing against Michael Jordan. They get to travel once or twice a game.
That's true. Carson Engel joining us as well. Quick word on the NBA before we get into UCF stuff. They met, they talked until 2, 3 in the morning. The owners pretty much gave the players an ultimatum like, we'll give you this deal, which is basically what, 51?
51. They're giving the players a slight edge.
51%.
The players wanted 53 most of the time. You're going to give them 51. They told them if they don't agree by Wednesday, they're going down to 47. They're going to change the salary cap.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of trouble if they don't agree to this. And right now it looks like they're not going to. I think we're all holding out hope that they don't stay so hard-headed and they change their mind before Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm surprised the players haven't taken that because they are not going to get a better deal than that. I don't understand what the players are thinking, and Billy Hunter and Jimbo and Derek Fisher. You're not going to get 52%. The owners are. I mean, so there's owners.
Well, if we're reading into reports, I think Derek Fisher would take that deal.
Yes.
I think Billy Hunter's the one holding this up.
I think Billy Hunter is the biggest problem in this, and if we can get rid of Billy Hunter out of this equation, I think we would have a deal.
Had the same problem with Billy Hunter, over 10 years ago. So
the players better take care of this because I'm going to tell you both sides of this. If you don't have a season, you could take any 50-50 you want. It's going to mean nothing. If you have no season, because your sport's going to be in the toilet. But let me ask you this: Howard the Duck this year normally you would be having basketball games. Traffic, how much down is it?
Way down. I don't know. I'd rather not go into the details of it, but it was at an all-time high in
But it's
June,
catastrophic,
July.
right? It could be catastrophic business all across.
Yeah, I mean, not
bring it
just
up.
for everyone that does things like me. Could be terrible news.
You could be the Amway Center insider, maybe. Break down concerts.
Yeah,
if there's no season.
I think that's Carson's department.
That is kind of my department.
Oh, that's
actually.
true.
Yeah.
Oh, he got you.
Where can we check you out again, Carson?
What? ICplaces.com.
Very good. Buckman,
Gotta give him a plug.
Thank you.
Plug where they can find us on Twitter and Facebook, because I want people to throw out suggestions on what Andrew Melnick can be. If the NBA season's canceled, he can't be a Magic insider. There's no Magic to inside. So I want people to throw out what kind of insider he should be. Can you tell us where they can send that?
You can find us on Facebook. Look at ESPN 1080 Insiders. You can find us there.
Yeah.
And Twitter. I believe we're the 1080 Insiders, or Insiders 1080.
I need to find something else.
Insiders 1080. My bad.
There you go. Well, we want you to throw out suggestions what Andrew Melnick can be, what kind of insider he can be with no NBA.
Yeah, what else can I inside, as Eric put it.
That's right. Great vocabulary, grammar there.
How about Tom Brady?
Let's go back to college athletics. UCF football, we'll start with the on-the-field stuff. Ooh. Well, I don't know. Which one is worse? UCF on the field and football, or UCF basketball?
I don't think we know yet. We'll find out tomorrow.
We Carson alluding
Football's
to...
always worse when it goes bad. That's your moneymaker.
Wow. Well, football, we'll start with that then.
That's fair. Yeah.
UCF losing to Tulsa on Thursday night, 24-17. It was a game that was back and forth. UCF led at the half, but Tulsa rushes for over 230-some yards on UCF, and UCF loses for the first time at home. Now they're 4-5, and they got to go to Southern Miss, who beat the heck out of East Carolina yesterday. Then they got to go to East Carolina. UCF has to do something they haven't done yet all year, which is win on the road. If they don't, they're not going to a bowl game.
No, they're not, and it's not going to be easy back-to-back road trips to Hattiesburg and to Greenville. I think maybe, they're not going to beat Southern Miss. Maybe they beat ECU, because ECU absolutely has no defense. I could see them trying to steal that game. You look at a team in Tulsa that's a pretty quality team. All their losses are to top 10 opponents. At the same time, I think that most people, if we really think what we thought UCF was, we would have expected a win there. But certainly in the state of affairs and the way things are going now, you didn't really expect a win, I think, on Thursday night, and they came close, and just really continuing troubles with offense in the red zone.
Yeah, and then the biggest surprise to me was what you just said about the running game. We saw UCF came in, ranked 3rd, 4th in total defense.
Against top 10, 84.5 yards per game they've only allowed going into that game.
Yeah, which to put that in perspective, Alabama's probably got the best run D, 77 yards a game, so it's not a whole lot different here. And they just got lit up. And, I doubt they're going to drive down the field at the end of the game. But at the end of the game, they can't get a stop. 2 first downs in a row Tulsa runs for and is able to run out the clock. And just not, with all the things that have gone wrong with UCF, that's one thing you don't expect.
Well, the red zone offense, again, was a big letdown. They had a 1st and goal in the 5, down 7 after the 41-yard pass from Godfrey to Warden, but they just couldn't get it together there, and it's just... the offensive issues continue. If you take away the Charleston Southern and the BC games, the first 2 games of the year, the most points they've scored this year was 24 against UAB.
Yeah, the offense just isn't what it was, and it's kind of hard to explain. Jeff Godfrey's still accurate with the football, still putting up pretty decent numbers I think that you would take from Jeff Godfrey, but the scores just aren't there. It's like UCF gets into a scoring position and they have no sort of game plan in terms of what to do, and no sort of fade into the corner to the tight end, no sort of creativity on the goal line or in the red zone on offense, and that has absolutely crippled them.
So now they go to Southern Miss, who beat
Southern Miss looks really good right now.
Good.
They're on a roll. They're playing their best football this season.
Mathematically, UCF still has a shot to win the division, but reality says no.
Right.
Any chance against Southern Miss? You guys got any chance? Any chance? Competitive?
They could maybe keep it competitive because they've got talent to do so. They probably have an even more talented team than Southern Miss, but the way Southern Miss is playing, it's tough to see them come out with any kind of win.
Who knows with this team? They could keep it competitive.
I got to blow out Southern Miss, blows them out.
I go more thinking towards that point.
At Southern Miss, at East Carolina, UTEP. They got to get 6 wins to be bowl eligible. You're not guaranteed anything. You win out, you're guaranteed of something. Will this team go bowling?
No. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to win either one of these road games.
I'm going to still hold out that they'll go bowling, but gosh, it's going to be tough.
Like you said, even 6-6 team at Conference USA, there's no guarantees there.
No guaranteed, although...
we have enough bowl tie-ins that we'll go somewhere...
New Orleans!
Well,
you were right!
Yeah.
UCF before the year, you said going to New Orleans!
Yeah, not that New Orleans.
Yeah, except they were undefeated in his prediction.
Yes.
They wouldn't be going to New Orleans even if they were undefeated.
Buckman, I would make a note of this. In December, for a December show, I want you to grab those clips from our preseason picks do a best of, and we will listen back to our picks, which I'm sure will be.
Why do we have to do that?
You guys were, for the most part, right. I mean,
I
understand why Carson made the pick. He's gonna make that pick every year. He does it from a UCF fan's perspective.
So he's like he's like Chris Berman, just picks the same Super Bowl every year.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
I mean, I pick UCF to go
Carson
undefeated
Engel,
too.
Chris Berman.
In my dreams.
Don't do that. I don't want to be associated with him.
All right, so UCF football's got some issues on the field. Let's talk about basketball. They started an exhibition game last night against West Virginia Tech Powerhouse. Little did we know that turned out to be a lot more news come out of that game than we expected. Thank you. Breaking news. If you go to ESPN1080.com and ESPNFlorida.com right now, you'll be able to read my article about A.J. Rumsa and Jeff Jordan not playing due to NCAA eligibility issues. A.J. Rumsa sat out. We have reports. David Bauman reported last night that A.J. Rumsa could be suspended 15 games this season. That's Dave Bauman, Bright House Sports Network's report.
You sound good with this news bet in there. Very newsman. I mean, you're Dan Rather right now.
I don't know why we're making light of this. We're pretty serious. But all right, it works. Brian Williams. I'm a big Brian Williams. Good show, by the way, Monday night.
Because sometimes when it's that bad, you just have to laugh. That's all you
might as well. Jeff Jordan, a separate issue. We don't know what it is. Marcus Jordan, P.J. Gaynor, was
Josh
Criddle out for team violations for whatever that is. You can figure that out, ladies and gentlemen. If you've gone to school, you know what it is. So, off the field issues for UCF basketball. Reports are that we'll find out maybe as early as tomorrow now that we'll find out the findings of the NCAA. All indications is it's not going to be good. They're going to get hit pretty good.
And just, reading between the tea leaves, I knew that this was coming. This was something that was really... If you kind of listen to comments and sort of saw some things, there was something going on, and this apparently is what it was. Now, I have no clue what's going on with Marcus Jordan, Josh Criddle, P.J. Gaynor. Don't know why they were suspended for violation of team rules. Pretty sure they'll be back on Saturday, although Donnie Jones in his postgame did not rule out the fact that they may miss more games. So who knows with those three. What I do know is that I think, at least, that A.J. Rumsa's situation is tied to whatever findings come out tomorrow for the NCAA and his relationship with the runner Ken Caldwell. And then I believe, because in the press release it was stated that Jeff Jordan's situation and A.J. Rumsa's situation are unrelated, I believe that Jeff Jordan's situation is academically related. But I really don't know for sure. That's just a guess from kind of what I'm hearing and what I'm reading and kind of what I'm trying to figure out.
Andrew, your thoughts from an outside point of view on this?
It's troubling, and this is a team that looks like they're on the rise. I mean, I know they fell apart in conference play last year, to say the least, but you got wins over Florida. You were undefeated before then. Got a really good coach, in my opinion, in Donnie Jones. So this is a terrible timing for all this to go down. I mean, this is a team who's looking to make a little bit of noise. I mean, no one outside of Memphis really ever scares you in the conference right now. There's some other good teams, don't get me wrong, but no one really puts fear into you like Memphis. They have a pretty easy non-conference schedule. And, at least you maybe made that November 14th game in Tallahassee a little easier for my school.
Well, we're glad we can oblige.
Yeah, it's only next Monday. It's unbelievable to think that.
The season starts Saturday. That's why the findings will come out this week.
Yeah.
Usually NCAA comes out with this thing before the season. What I think will happen is they'll come out with the findings this week as early as tomorrow, Monday. I think UCF will appeal, and then you'll have a delayed process. You'll have a final decision on the NCAA by the end of the season. I don't think it'll affect this team's season per se from the standpoint of postseason. It could affect them next season, and the sanctions could affect them when they get into the Big East, which is a big problem because but
they're not going to be good in the Big East anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
That's what you think. What do you think you can't beat Rutgers in South Florida?
I mean, it's going to take. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to be last place in the league.
Well, they might be now if the sanctions are back.
It's going to take a number of years to be a competitive team in the Big East.
Buckman, you got something to add?
Is it wrong of me to think that maybe these sanctions are good? It gets us some more national attention. We get more media. Listen. What's the word? We're only first-time violators.
What do you think this is, Miami?
We're not Miami. Exactly. We're not Miami. Hey. We're not going to be, we're not going to be canned here. If anything, people will be like, "Oh, UCF, they're trying to be good." That's my take on it.
You sound like Charlie Bernstein. That's something like Charlie would say. Trying to be good.
Yeah, he would say that.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Exactly. That's Buckman's point there. I don't know if that's... I don't think President Hitt will agree with you on that. Carson, we know President Hitt a little bit. He wouldn't go for that, right?
No, of course not.
I mean, obviously, that's not their goal, but I could make some some positive.
You just
out of
like the
this.
street cred, right? That's what you're going for. You want some street cred.
I want some street cred, exactly.
He's got a sports employee over here. He's got to put the positive spin on
I'm
it.
just trying to put a good spin on it, that's all.
It's PR man.
That's a good point. Good PR. Well, we'll see if it works. Stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of news could come out of UCF. We mentioned the findings in basketball, the Big East. We might as well just record this part. UCF could get an invite to the Big East. There you go. We'll have this. We'll air this again next week probably, as it'll get postponed more than likely again. And then we're reading from UCFSports.com. Brandon Helwig's is speculating that UCF could have a marquee opponent at home, replacing Kansas State.
Some sort of game, blockbuster, a definite sellout of Bright House Network Stadium, a 1-on-1 deal with somebody.
That could be announced this week.
Could be. Or it could be announced
Or it
next
could be
week, or it could be like the
postponed
Big
and-
East
yeah.
and announced months later.
Well, if they don't announce that marquee 1-1, that means it's probably a Big East school since they delay everything. Quick word on FSU. We're gonna. By the way, for those FSU fans, you want to keep it here on ESPN1080.com and ESPNFlorida.com. This week, myself and Andrew Melnick will have a special FSU Miami preview, so we'll go into detail of that game this week. But
Wow.
quick word on the BC win as they destroyed Boston College on Thursday night.
BC's no good. Let's be fair. Their offensive line's still all right. So what Florida State's defensive line's been doing in recent weeks is really impressive, especially Bjorn Warner. He's been the best player on the team. But I guess this is a team they've had a lot of troubles with. So when you get a blowout win over a conference team, especially when you've lost to a few times, you got to be pretty happy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, me and Andrew Melnick will have a big in-depth preview, Miami FSU, next week. It's a game that'll be on 3:30 Eastern, 1:30 pregame right here on ESPN 1080. The team, big game, FSU Miami, great rivalry. Me and Andrew will break it down for the website. Look for it this week. But when we come back, we'll talk a little National Football League. Patriots, Giants, can you feel it? Super Bowl rematch, not necessarily, but it's a great game. Dolphins, Colts, who gets Andrew Luck? Charlie Bernstein's going to have all these answers and more. That's next. You're listening to the ESPN 1080 Insider Show on ESPN 1080 The Team.
The Insiders will be right back.
ESPN 1080, The Team.
Oh, they're doing the Doogie. That's great, huh? That's exciting. What is
Did you
that?
just rename that song the Doogie?
I'm calling it the Doogie. That's what we're calling it. I'm not going to call it by its real name.
That was
Not the Doogie Howser, Eric. It's called the Dougie.
I like Doogie better than Dougie.
Neil Patrick Harris will be really appreciative of you renaming it the Doogie.
I'm a big fan of, I was a big fan of that show right back in the day. Back when television was really quality and not garbage like now. ESPN1080.com Insider Show here on ESPN 1080 The Team.
Is that Carson Dougieing?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah. He's
I see him.
I was thinking about
Andrew
it, but-
Melnick, our Magic Insider for this week.
I'm not
For
cutting
now,
the music
maybe
till someone
the final
Dougies.
week. We got Buckman, People's running back, is doing his there. We have Brittany, diehard Patriot fan, Patriot Insider. We're gonna call her actually.
Oh, I didn't even notice Tom Brady jersey.
Yeah, where's your jersey? You got no jersey.
Got a shirt on.
I got-
It's
yeah.
acceptable.
Unbelievable. But Brittany, you have any thoughts on the Patriots-Giants game? Go ahead, put her on the air. First time ever. Come on, you're a sports Patriot fan. Give me your thoughts on the Patriots-Giants here.
We're not going to relive the Super Bowl. That's what I'm going to say.
Are you going to get along with your producer there, Buckman, who's wearing an Eli Manning jersey there? Is that going to be an issue?
Yes, it is. We're not going to be friends. Maybe. Well, we may be if we win, Patriots. But if we lose, I'm not going to be his friend tonight.
Wow! That's a lot of pressure there, Buckman.
I'll still be your friend.
I appreciate it, Melnick. You're a good man. You always got my back.
Man, we're gonna go call Charlie up. He is on the line. Charlie Bernstein, now our NFL insider, is on the line. Charlie, you've heard the smack talk. Patriots, Giants, friendships are on the line. Your thoughts on
Some
the game?
weak smack talk.
Yeah.
There are a lot of stuff on the line in that game. Really like the Patriots today. Main reason, no Hakeem Nicks for the Giants, no Ahmed Bradshaw. They didn't make the trip up to Foxborough. And I just think the Patriots are going to be able to score pretty much at will. You always never want to bet against the Patriots, especially coming off a loss. This is where the Giants' schedule really gets rough for them. And as silly as it might have sounded 2 weeks ago, I think in 2 weeks, the Giants and Eagles will be playing for the share of first place in the NFC East. I think the Eagles will be in first place by the end of the month.
Charlie, are you really telling me that DJ Ware isn't going to come out and run for 150 yards today? Are you really telling me that?
I know, it sounds crazy. But, I'm here to make crazy predictions, and I think DJ Ware is not going to be the league's leading rusher today. So, it's going to be a long day for my New York Giants.
Charlie, if you have to write a book about bad quarterbacking after today, are you watching Denver, Oakland, or are you watching St. Louis, Arizona?
Well, the short answer is yes. I'm going to get, if I'm writing a bad quarterbacking book, I'm going to get as much information as possible. And those would be the two games where I would start. The Denver-Oakland game might be even worse quarterbacking than a potential A.J. Feely versus John Skelton matchup out in the desert. But they're at least fun to watch. Tim Tebow is fun to watch. I told you guys, I don't know how many times, dating back to when, he was coming out of Florida, guy can't play quarterback in the NFL. I've been called dirty names from the God-fearing Florida Gator people.
Yeah, Charlie and I were
thanks again, folks.
We were on the air in St. Augustine, so you can only imagine how the people there reacted.
Yeah, but the point is, I told you so. In actuality, the guy can't play quarterback. And what we seen out of Carson Palmer 2 weeks ago, threw 3 interceptions in less than one half a play. The thing is that Carson can play quarterback. He's just really rusty. I don't think that rust is going to be worn off that much after a bye week. Look for Oakland to win this game. I think Denver keeps it close. And, the caveat in this is if Tim Tebow doesn't get you blown out by 40, he probably wins you the game. So it's going to be kind of interesting, and I'm going to keep one eye on this game, if nothing else for, comedic purposes.
All right. Just a few minutes ago, you mentioned that by the end of the month, the Eagles would be on top of that NFC East, and I have to agree with that. But on your story on ESPNFlorida.com, you have them losing to the Bears today. So what gives in that game?
I like the way the Bears put pressure on Mike Vick last year. I think that was really the first game where Vick started his downtrend. Everybody knows that at this point, if you're going to beat Vick, you're going to have to hit him, and you're going to have to rush him, and the Bears can do that. And, the Bears are the one team in the NFC that, the Bears and the Falcons probably, two teams, I should say, nobody's really talking about. Jay Cutler, when he has time to throw, is a heck of a quarterback, even with, I don't want to call them garbage weapons on the outside, but a lackluster set of wide receivers. Matt Forte played the best football of his career. Pay the man. I think I'm required to say that by NFL law. But the Bears, I think, are going to pull an upset on Monday Night Football. And if nothing else, I think it'll be at least a close game. A lot closer than the 8-point spread would have you believe.
Speaking of quarterbacks and some bad quarterback play, I know the first Ravens-Steelers game went a little differently than maybe some of us thought. But is it still the same old story there? Is it similar teams, and one has Ben Roethlisberger, one has Joe Flacco?
That's the way I see it. It's the Baltimore Ravens have played poorly the last couple of weeks. They go into Jacksonville on a Monday night. As Anquan Bolden said after the game, well, that's Jacksonville's Super Bowl. Well, Jacksonville won that Super Bowl. You lost to a team that's much, much worse than you. And then, the hangover, hung over till through the first half of Sunday's games, almost dropped the game to Arizona, which really nobody in the league should be doing. So, Baltimore hasn't been playing well. Now, this is a game where it's going to be no surprises. Nobody's sneaking up on anybody in this game, but for the Baltimore Ravens, for me anyway, show me you could beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in a game that counts. First place is on the line, and I know you could say, well, they beat them on opening day. That's true, but at this point, where's it gotten you? They're still tied for first. This is a game that really counts, and, I like Ben Roethlisberger in a big spot over Joe Flacco in a big spot, and 32 GMs agree with me, including Ozzie Newsome of the Ravens.
I like that. We're speaking with NFL insider Charlie Bernstein. You can check out his work on ESPNFlorida.com. He writes every day, maybe even twice a day sometimes. He's that good, ladies and gentlemen. He's got his picks down on the site. We're halfway through the season now, Charlie. Give me what's been the biggest storyline in the NFL here halfway through?
The first part of the year, offenses were so much ahead of defense. And I think we're really seeing defense start to catch up. Now, if you're talking about the big stories, and it's funny, nobody's talking about this team because they're kind of a machine. The Green Bay Packers, they just win every week. 7-0, going into San Diego today. I expect them to win again. When the Patriots made their 16-0 run back in 2007, before they lost that wonderful Super Bowl to the New York Giants, everybody talked about the Patriots week in and week out, maybe because they were beating teams by 30 and 40 points and sitting Brady in the fourth quarter, that sort of thing. The Packers are just winning games each and every week. And, going into the season, everybody in the NFC was like, well, I think, the Saints are about as good as the Packers. The Eagles are about as good as the Packers. It's really the Packers and everybody else in the NFL. I mean, you can't watch, as much football as I do and as much as most of America does and not think that Green Bay is head and shoulders just better than everybody else, and it starts with Aaron Rodgers, who's, the best playing the best quarterback we've seen since Brady in 2007. And the thing about Rodgers is he could do more than Tom Brady. He's just, if you had to build a quarterback out of a robot, it would be Aaron Rodgers right now.
How'd that taste, Andrew? Look at that, huh? Better than 07, better than Brady.
Yeah, well,
right now.
Right now.
Right now, I'll give it to him. Yeah.
Come on, now.
We'll see. We'll see how it keeps going.
Get angry. Let's go. Come on.
I'm not going to get angry about the truth. What about? We're speaking of Green Bay. Did you see Tom Brady last week? He wasn't great. He wasn't great. Speaking of Green Bay, though, when do they go down? Any chance it happens today?
Yeah, I mean there is a chance. I don't think it'll happen today. But San Diego is not a bad team, contrary to what we see on the field each and every week. They're 4-3. When you look at the Chargers, who their wins come against? Teams that aren't particularly good. They've been challenged in 2 real games this year against the Jets, where they had a big lead at halftime, found a way to blow it. Against the Patriots, where they were staying close, but they were never really in the position to win the game. So, San Diego needs to win a big game before you can really, truly believe in them. Phillip Rivers is probably playing the worst football of his career, and it doesn't really make sense why. He seems to be throwing off his back foot quite a bit, which kind of accentuates his mechanical problems. And, they're just not playing well. And, maybe you could say it's because it's a Norv Turner coach team, and Norv Turner coach teams do this. But, the defense isn't as good. You would think they'd have better weapons on the outside than they did last year. They're just not playing that well, and it starts with Phillip Rivers. So he's got to get better. If he plays a good game today, they absolutely can beat the Green Bay Packers. I just don't think they will. Now, the Packers aren't going to go 16-0. It just, I hate to say, it's good for a team because losing is never good for anybody. But I just don't see them, blowing through the pack, the way the Patriots did in 07. And, if you remember down the stretch, the Patriots had, that game against Baltimore where they really should have lost. If Rex Rye doesn't call timeout on the sideline before a 4th down play, they do lose that game. You always kind of trip up along the way, and that's okay. I mean, the NFL, you're allowed to have, even if you're a great team, you're allowed to have 2 or 3, real stinkers, and, nobody should care. That Thanksgiving Day game is going to be a huge one in Detroit. I don't think the Green Bay Packers lose there, but I think they lose maybe even in the rematch game in Detroit, even though it'll be in Green Bay. But I think they lose somewhere along the way.
All right, Charlie, let's talk Bucks a little bit. I think I'm just going to take my 1 win over the Saints this year and be okay with that because I don't see them winning this game today. I know you don't see them having a chance in this game today. Let's talk about this matchup and then also what's going on with Josh Freeman because, they've been able to skate by with a decent record and pick up some wins, but he's really not playing that well.
Yeah, I mean, in today's game, I really do like the Saints. A couple of reasons. The Dome is the best home field advantage in football. Common misconception, among people is, well, you give the home team 3 points. Well, that's not true. Each home field is worth a certain amount of points. As far as a handicapping perspective, based on, of course, gambling and based on how well teams play at home. Well, the Saints, the Superdome is probably worth about 10 to 11 points. So that alone, if the 2 teams are even, wouldn't be that close of a game. And the teams are more even than it really looks like on paper. The Saints have sexier names, but they don't stop the run quite as well as maybe they should. So this could be a big day for LeGarrette Blount. I think it's possible that the Bucs stay close, but I think there's a better bet that the Bucs get blown out in this one. Now, as for Josh Freeman, nobody expected him to kind of take this step back this year. It's kind of interesting to me. Last year I was watching, a lot of tape on Josh Freeman. He's doing all the right things, getting all the right results, I should say. But he had a tendency to lock on receivers. Now, he's got a strong enough arm where he can throw it in traffic. He can make those fits. But the more film you get on a guy that he locks on the receivers, defensive backs are going to anticipate. They're going to break, a half second quicker. And I think that's what's happening. Also, some poor mechanics. He's throwing off his back foot a little too much and just making some bad decisions. So, he goes 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year. Right now, I believe he has 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So he needs to turn that around if the Bucs are going to have a chance of being anything more than a 500 team.
Let's head back to New York and into Buffalo and break down that game a little bit. Jets at the Bills. Actually a 3-point underdog in Buffalo.
Yeah, big game. This is one of these games where, I'd love to give you a rock-solid prediction, but I don't really have a good feel on how this is going to go. Big game, I think a bigger game for the Jets. Being 4-3, if they go up to Buffalo, drop that game, they go down 2 games to Buffalo with a tiebreak. They go down a minimum, 2 games, well, at least likely 2 games to the Patriots. So I'm not saying the Jets are out of playoff contention if they lose today, but they're certainly out of division title contention, with those slim hopes that they have of that. Buffalo's a great story this year. I've been on Ryan Fitzpatrick ever since I saw him early in the preseason. Just love the way he's playing. He spreads the ball around. It's kind of a New Orleans type of offense in the sense that, Stevie Johnson's their best receiver, and he's a good one. He's not I think, a legit, big-time, elite wide receiver yet, but he's a pretty good one. But Ryan Fitzpatrick makes a lot of guys stars. He's making David Nelson look good. Scott Chandler, the tight end. Who knew this guy even existed before the season? Freddie Jackson is running the ball as well as anybody in the NFL, and they're going to have a decision to make on him when the season comes up, as he's a free agent. So, Ryan Fitzpatrick's moving the ball around. Biggest difference between this year and last year is defensive line play. Marcel Darius has been a wonderful addition to this team. He's not going to get votes for Defensive Rookie of the Year, but he really should. They've sturdied up against the run, and today should be really a knockdown, drag-out war. And I don't really know who's going to win. I think I picked the Jets, and basically just because of the desperation factor. But it wouldn't shock me at all if Buffalo won.
All right, Charlie, in a couple minutes we have with you, I want to go speed drills. I want your picks on the following questions. We're going to go through the divisions and awards. Let's start divisions. AFC East, who you got?
New England Patriots. They're the best team. They get Tom Brady. As much as I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's not yet Tom Brady. Never will be Tom Brady. They got Tom Brady. Nobody else does. Default, Patriots win.
AFC North, you going with Steelers?
Absolutely. It's a quarterback's league. Ben Roethlisberger clearly head and shoulders better than any quarterback in that division. Cincinnati Bengals have been a pretty good story, but show me a quality win they have. Maybe Buffalo.
AFC South, you sticking with the Texans? No.
Yeah, absolutely. Texans are going to run away with this thing. The Texans are a team. It sounds crazy, guys. You could see them in the Super Bowl.
Oh, my goodness. AFC West, who gets that division, wacky division?
I'd like to go with my quarterback theory. And I'm going to have to because I really don't believe in I think the Oakland Raiders are the best actual team if you take the quarterbacks away. But you can't take the quarterbacks away. Carson Palmer's still an unknown. Got to go Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers. Norv Turner navigates them to a 9-7 division title.
NFC East, you mentioned it. You think the Eagles will catch the Giants in a few weeks. Do the Eagles surpass them and win the division, or who do you have?
Yeah, I think, much to my dismay, they're the best team. They got the track team out there. Again, they're a team that should be playing in a dome. They're kind of built for a dome. So I think they'll do fine in the playoffs as long as they, get a Detroit on the road or an Atlanta on the road. If they don't, they're going to be another one and done.
We got Green Bay in the north, obviously. South and the west. Who got San Francisco, obviously, in the west, and then who's got the south?
New Orleans Saints are going to win the South. I picked them before the season to go to the Super Bowl. Not backing off that one bit. Drew Brees is a fantastic quarterback. They made some additions on defense. They're a machine right now. They haven't been as good as they will be in the coming weeks, but I think New Orleans Saints are really going to figure this thing out, and they're going to run the ball a lot more than people think. out west, San Francisco's already won the division. So, we really don't need to
Last one, the most important one. Who gets Andrew Luck?
Oh, I think Miami's will to lose will persevere.
Yeah!
Who gets Andrew Melnick?
Anything else, we've seen. And the thing about the Miami Dolphins are, they've come close to winning 3 games. It wouldn't shock anybody if they won today, but they need to lose today. And they need to lose every other game this year, and by God, I think they will. The Indianapolis Colts still, a pair of games against Jacksonville, a game against Tennessee left. They're going to win a couple of those games. I think this is Miami's race to lose.
Since MVP is obvious, do we have a runner-up?
Runner-up MVP, I think it sounds nuts, right? Ryan Fitzpatrick, for what he's taken the Buffalo Bills, and, he's performed each and every week. Yeah, he would be, if not, you could give him, most improved or comeback player of the year, but he'd be the backup as runner-up, I think. Who are you going to give it to in San Francisco? Alex Smith is not worthy.
Exactly, and then Rookie of the Year, Cam Newton?
I think, there's been a lot of great rookies playing, and, just with what Cam Newton has done out there, what they've asked him to do, they've asked him to, chuck it around a lot, and, not enough credit is going to quarterbacks coach Mike Shula in Carolina. This guy I've watched him for much of his career. He made David Garrard look like a quarterback for 2.5 years, and that's no easy task. And you look at the player that Cam Newton was last year at Auburn, the poor mechanics, the fact that, just go back and look at the national championship game. Just his footwork was terrible. You knew he was going to be a really good player on the next level. You didn't think he'd be a star this quick. You didn't think he'd throw as accurately. Mike Shula has done a wonderful job with him. Should be a head coach somewhere next year.
Wow. That's Charlie Bernstein, our NFL insider on ESPN 1080. Check out his work on ESPNFlorida.com all week long. Charlie, enjoy your Sunday afternoon of not watching the Jaguars.
Yes, I will not watch them and watch a lot of other great teams. So looking forward to it.
All right, Charlie. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you around.
All right, gentlemen.
Mike Shula?
Wow. That came out of nowhere.
So
left field
ridiculous.
There. Wow. We got to...
I don't think Alabama's going to take him back.
No, not. A few minutes left on the show. Buckman, do you want us to pick the Giants-Patriots game since that's your game there?
You can go ahead and make the pick.
All right.
I'll be respectful. of
Melnick,
your guys'
who you got?
picks.
I got New England to cover a 9-point spread. I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything like that, but I think there's too many weapons, and the Giants are going to keep pace for a lot of the game because New England's defense is, pathetic, to say the least. But without Akeem Nicks, without Ahmad Bradshaw, I think too many weapons on New England. They win 10 to 14 points.
Yeah, Patriots.
Yeah,
All he
Patriots.
said. That's good.
Buckman, you want to be bold? You going to go Giants?
I'm taking the G-Men.
Whoa!
Wow.
Taking the G-Men. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
I just told you why not.
Anything you want to say? Anything?
I don't listen to what the insider... No, I'm just kidding.
Anything you want to say to Brittany on the record before this game?
The Giants will win.
Brittany, do you have a rebuttal?
Patriots all day.
There you go.
That's pretty intense.
You like that? Not, Andrew?
I mean, off the air, I could,
Smack's been a little weak today, but that's
She's
all
being
right.
very
The
polite.
problem is that when I really talk smack, you never know what's going to come flying out of my mouth. So that's why I kind of just don't say anything.
Well, I just want to say, of course, the Dolphins, of course, will play the Chiefs. Do the Dolphins? They could win today.
They could. I mean, Matt Castle could Matt Castle and, play like himself and cost the Chiefs a game. But I don't know. Charlie kind of has me convinced there that with this will to
lose, baby.
That's a team that
they
just
do have
doesn't.
a strong will to
That's
lose.
a team that just looks like they don't care anymore.
Listen, I just want to say, as much good work as Buckman does for UCF Athletics, so does Brandon Natus, a diehard Chiefs fan. And for his fine work, I hope that the Chiefs win in his honor.
Ingalls leaving the building.
That is unbelievable. I was thinking about dropping that completely irrelevant name drop, and then I
Whoa, that
decided
name
not
is
to,
not
but,
irrelevant.
Yeah, that's
kudos
not
to you.
irrelevant. If we had more time, we would even call up
Yeah,
Mr.
if
Natus.
you follow men's golf, UCF men's golf, that name is not irrelevant.
Yeah, so all 6 of you.
Wow.
Everyone's getting a plug today. Everyone's getting a plug.
It's
There you go,
plug,
Mr.
it's
Natus.
Plug Sunday.
That's right, Vic, the voice of Rollins softball, who got shut out by UCF in a nice exhibition. We could at least baseball and softball won't have
so
any.
fun to waste the
he
final
giving you
8
the
minutes
index
of the
finger?
show.
with Rollins smack talk.
There you go. So, well, we have no NBA, unfortunately. That's the problem, Andrew. What are we going to talk about the rest of the year if no NBA?
Football.
That's true. Football it is, ladies and gentlemen. Oregon-Stanford next Saturday.
Yeah, pretty excited for that. We saw what happened last year. Stanford raced out, I think, went up 21-3. And
Right,
then
Oregon
just
came
got
back.
obliterated from there on out. So that, huge game. BCS title on the line for Stanford. We said we don't think Oregon will get a rematch with LSU.
Yeah.
So really, their best bet here is to, win the Pac-12, go to the Rose Bowl, and they got to win this game to do it.
That's Andrew Melnick, your Magic Insider.
And get to play high-powered UCLA, possibly, in the Pac-12
Fighting Rick New
championship
Eagles,
after
baby.
a win over Arizona State
I
last
love that
night.
Pac-10 remix there. Oh, my phone's ringing. That means the show's done. So, for Andrew Melnick, your Magic Insider, Carson Engel, your Knights Insider, Buckman, our producer, Brittany, our special guest, the People Insider, I'm Eric Lopez. Check out ESPNFlorida.com and ESPN1080.com for all the latest breaking news and articles and websites and audio content, including FSU Miami preview me and Andrew will do this week. For everybody here, this has been the ESPN 1080 Insider Show on ESPN 1080, The Team.
When traveling throughout the state, you're within earshot of a Genesis Communications radio station.